to talk about values, establishing a foundation for what you stand for, right? Identifying the non-negotiables in your life. They frame who you are. They frame how you hope to feel the day, experience your week, how you hope to show up in the world. But if you don't know what you stand for, if you don't know what your values are, you'll have no hope in actually focusing in on or creating discipline around the life that you hope to build, to enjoy. When I'm doing coaching, I did this last time, I'm gonna do this probably every time. For some reason, I tend to turn to sailing as a storytelling device. I'm not a sailor, I'll be honest, but there is something about this idea of leaving a safe harbor from which we often find ourselves tethered to for the life of personal freedom, for the fully exploited potential that might exist beyond the jetty. The attempt, as I say, to honor the intention of a creator who very deliberately puts specific skills, gifts inside of your being. All of those things happen when you push into choppy water. So when I was thinking about how do I talk about values, I was actually drawn to a story I'd heard about something called ship killers. Let me explain. Ancient seafarers, when they were plotting their courses, originally it was by stars. I'm sure that they used some kind of geometry, maybe even depended on Dwayne Johnson from Moana. I'm not sure, but they often were looking at some North Star that kept them moving in the right direction, that regardless of the conditions of the sea, they knew to value so that they could make it on their journey. And as time progressed, maps end up coming in. And so now instead of stars, they're looking at paper, and on the maps, there were particular things to take note of that were called ship killers. Rocks, islets, breakers, reefs, wrecks, obstructions, spoil areas, right? I said I'm not a sailor, so I had to actually look up what a couple of those things are. I didn't know what an islet was. I don't know what a spoil area is. It doesn't matter. That's not the point. The point is, if you're going to head out to sea, damaging your hull or bending your propeller or anything that might keep you as the floating boat from floating, that might make it run aground or stop floating, that's not ideal. That's not a value, right? The value that any skipper has is to keep this vessel sailing, to do it in waters that allow it to traverse the sea safely and in as uninterrupted a way as possible as they make their way toward their destination, that North Star. And so the interesting thing for me about values is that core values are obviously things that help you clearly identify what you stand for in a way that designs guardrails around what you do, right? Follow that star. And maybe more importantly, what you don't do, right? Don't sink that boat. So the ways that you navigate and progress through the journey of whatever ends up sitting ahead for you is balanced in some ways around what you do consistently, discipline and focus, and making sure you're avoiding what you don't do so that you don't run aground. For me, I've got 6 core values. I'm not sure that there's a right number of core values, but I'm going to ask you as a part of homework to make sure that you can name the things that you personally value in your life. My values: centeredness, right? The idea that I am working to live, I'm not living to work. Advocacy, right? Showing up as an ally to anyone who may be marginalized or may not benefit from the privilege that I do. Growth, that I'm striving every day to be better than I was yesterday. Optimism, choosing positivity, hope in what's to come, the good that can exist even inside of hard times. Service, just wanting to put on the cap of servant leader in any and every aspect of life. And responsibility, the idea that I want to try and act with integrity. And those things for me are the North Star. Those are the things I hope to live into every single day. These are the things that I've signaled to anyone in my life that would be classified as an accountability partner, Brendan among them, to be on the lookout for if I start veering off course, right? If I know that my work starts to compromise my ability to show up as a dad, or negativity in hard times starts to paint a pessimistic vision of my future, then I'm compromising my ability to reach my goals. I'm doing something that comes at the expense of my value, and I might, because of that disconnect, undermine how I actualize my actual calling, right? So I know why I'm on this planet, right? I'm on this planet to change it, to have impact on it, right? The purpose of my creation is a reflection of the values that I hold. And I will argue they need to be a reflection of the values that you hold. And so I want to keep my family a priority, advocate for others, chase growth, see the good, serve well, and do it in a way that creates consistency between my ambition and my everyday actions. And if I drift away from my core values, right, I run into a ship killer. I slow at best or sink at worst my pursuit of becoming who I'd hope to be. So for you, homework starts with a question. And it's a very simple one. What do you stand for? What do you stand for? Unless you know what you stand for, unless you know your core values, you don't have a sense, you don't have a handle on what it is that you're going to need to do. So you have to set that North Star, right? Create the guardrails that reinforce what you do and what you don't do. Be clear about who and how you'd hope to show up as every single day. And then you give yourself the chance to actually be that person. Answer this question. What do you stand for? Create a list of your core values. What attributes would you need to have present every single day in your life, all the time, to have anyone who's witness to you living your life know without a doubt what it is that you stand for, right? Knowing what you stand for is going to be a big part of how we help cast the vision for where you're going, where you're going to focus your energy and how you'll deploy your discipline to actually get there.
This can be your day for personal growth. This can be that day you committed to and you remember and you go, that was the day I got myself a community. I got better coaches. I committed to making my life the absolute best that I could. This is that day. Make today your growth day. Click the button on this page and sign up right now.